Welcome, everyone. Excited to have Gary Surdam with us today. Gary is a founder and CEO of Bright Start EdTech and the visionary behind the Illoominate platform. He's an international educator, a Harvard Business School online alum, and a passionate advocate for personalized learning and social emotional development in education. Gary, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here and joining you in this podcast.
All right. So, Gary, in our preparatory call, you shared that your journey started with a powerful moment teaching engineering online to students in Thailand. You call it an illuminating moment. Can you take us back to that day and how it sparked the idea for what will become Illuminate?
Yes, and thank you very much. It was about 10 years ago, almost 11. I was teaching an online class to a group of students in Thailand. I actually was in Southern California, and I was giving them a problem. Part of engineering is to solve problems. And so I gave them a problem. They were trying to come up with a solution for the problem. And I saw their minds just kind of spinning and spinning. And then all of a sudden, this young man lit up. His face illuminated, his eyes illuminated. He knew the answer. And he basically gave it within seconds. Those illuminating moments is what really got me to thinking, how can we make it so that every child has those illuminating moments? Well, that was 10, 11 years ago. Technology has gone so much further than what we imagined back then. Now we're utilizing AI technology to make those illuminating moments happen in a child's life.
That's so nice, so insightful. You mentioned that you launched Price Start EdTech with no outside funding, just a grid and a vision. What were some of the early challenges that you faced building a tech-driven education company from scratch?
Well, of course, I am an educator. I am a professor of global education, STEAM education, and entrepreneurship. And my background or my expertise has nothing to do with technology. So I had the vision and I still have the vision, but I didn't have the funding available to bring on some talented computer programmers, AI driven people. And so I needed to try to figure out as an entrepreneur, how do we meet our goals? How do we get to the point where we need to be? So I brought on interns from different universities that were majoring in AI technology, computer science, brought them on board. They had a 3-month internship through the university and our company, and we had them help develop what we have now. I myself could never have done that alone, but I brought in those talented individuals. A lot of them were international students that really have a vision and understand technology. They were actually getting their master's in computer science. And so brought them on board and really got them to help us to develop what we have today.
Very nice, very nice. And especially, you didn't come from a technical background, but you brought these students and brought them on board and lead them, especially to build something, right? So you describe that phase one of Illuminate was focused on building a stronger parent-child relationship through affirmation, activities, and values like honesty and social justice. How do you see that as a form of offboarding, not just for users, but for families stepping into a new way of learning?
Well, teach our first and most important live teachers in the lives of their children are the parents. Parents are the most important teachers in their lives. They start from birth, even before birth, and they are really giving the education to our children. And so a lot of times as parents, we sometimes feel like we don't have that background. We don't have that knowledge. We can't be the teachers. But what we give to them is we give them the opportunity to really take some strategies and really use them to gain a relationship with their child, but also to become that educational leader at home. And so what we start off with, and this is phase one in our personalized learning mobile app. Phase one gives parents affirmations. As parents, our lives are tough. We have to hold down a job and we have to provide for our family, but at the same time, we need to be that educational leader at home. And so we give them a thumbs up. We give them an affirmation every time they get onto our app. Now, the app gives you a push notification. We have one that goes out on Wednesdays at around 7:30, right after dinner, after homework's done, before going to sleep, giving them an affirmation. And then it follows up with strategy or activity to do with their child. Then we also give one at 4 o'clock on Sunday, which is right before dinner. But Sunday is a time where we spend time with our family. And what the activities do is they are step one, step two, step three. So if it's about communication, this is what you do first, second, and third. If it's about gaining responsibility, if it's about caring, if it's about honesty, what we do is we give them 3 steps for the parent to follow. But then also it brings it down to, if I have a 3 to 5 year old, this is how I enhance what I'm doing. If I have a 10 to 13 year old, this is what I have. So it looks at their age of their child. But
Mm.
what it does, and it's not something that we do it in 10 minutes and we just check it off. These are activities that may take 2 or 3 or 4 days for the child, for the parent and the child to work together. So they may take 20 minutes out of the day and start with step one and then get into step two to the following day. So it's really it actually comes from my book called Illoominate with the same name. And Illoominate is the companion that goes with the mobile app, and there are activities and strategies that every parent can use.
So nice, very insightful. Looking ahead to phase two, you're moving into personalized learning powered by AI. What does that look like in practice, and how do you see it transforming the way students, parents, and educators collaborate?
Well, after about 18 months of using the mobile app with parent and child engagement, the parent's going to know exactly the learning style of their child. And then we're going to have basically bring the parent, the child, and the teachers together and kind of do a questionnaire or survey to bring it together and really look at the learning style of the child, looking at the way they learn, looking at their strengths and their weaknesses, looking at what their interests are. AI technology is going to put that all together, and then it's going to look and it's going to focus on STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, and it's going to give the content to the child exactly the way that the child learns. It's almost like at one time our app was going to be called Click, and Click is when it clicks in your mind. But now we're looking at illumination. How does it illuminate in our mind? Again, because of the AI technology is giving it to the child exactly the way that they learn.
Interesting. And could you give an example of a success story where personalized early engagement made a significant difference in outcome for a student or client?
I also do some what we call SAT, basically tutoring, basically where we look at how do we prepare our students to get the best score possible for the SAT exam to enter into universities and colleges around the US. And so the first thing I do is I really do an evaluation. How does a child learn? What are the steps that we need to take to get our child to really be successful in getting a successful grade on this exam and really learning in a way? Because I myself, I was going through some training years ago when I was preparing to be a trainer for an educational company. And the presenter basically was looking at me and said, this is important. You need to take notes. Now, I myself, I'm not a note taker. I need to absorb the information and then I take notes. But he was forcing me to sit there and constantly write down everything that he said. that's not the way I learn. So the first thing that we do when I do the tutoring for the SAT exam is I find out what is their learning style. Are they like me where I need to absorb it first and then take notes? Or do they need to take notes first? So we did that. Now, I remember this one student a few years ago. He was preparing for the exam, the SAT exam, and the score is around 1600 that you could possibly get, and he just excelled, and he got in really a high score, but got into the University of Southern California because his learning style was really addressed and he was able to understand the process of being a successful student in university life.
What a beautiful success story. Thank you for sharing that. What current trends in education, technology, or training do you find most exciting or relevant to improving the first experience of learners and clients?
Right now we're talking about AI technology. We're talking about innovation. We're talking about Web3, and we're just like moving ahead forward. The issue is education is not following. Education needs to be at the forefront. They need to prepare our students to be those people that are taking those technology and really running with it. Because technology is not going to determine the future. It's the student that has the learning ability and has the ability to be able to understand and use AI technology in a positive way. We need to prepare our students to understand the technology and to be at the forefront and to be able to do that. So I'm working with universities and helping them to prepare our students to really be those leaders in technology, whether it's AI, whatever learning platforms, whatever it may be, they need to be at the top and the leaders. And so I'm excited to be able to head off, work with the universities to help and make that happen.
How do a Bright Start, EdTech, and Illuminate stand out in the crowded education technology market and training career development market for that purpose? What would you say is your unique value proposition that could also help our audience company differentiate their client onboarding process?
Well, as an entrepreneur, I've always said that we think that we are the best thing in town, that nobody does anything like us. But in reality, there are others that are doing what we are doing. And so, what we need to do is we need to make a difference. We need to do things and provide a service that is like no other. And so, what we do is starting with the parents. We're really working with parents to be those leaders at home, those educational leaders at home. Moving forward to looking at the way a student learns to provide content. I have Illuminate is spelled with two O's, Illuminate. Those two O's represent infinity because once a child has those illuminating moments in learning is going to go on forever. And so what we provide is a platform in which those illuminating moments will happen in the lives of their children and that their learning will go on forever. Now, the educational market, the ed tech market, is over $400 billion. And, $400 billion is a lot to look at. Personalized learning takes up about 20% of that. And so what we are working on as a company is how do we meet the needs of that 20%? How do we go far and above what other people are doing? And that's what one of the I get you challenges we have as a company, but also one of the great successes that we will have in the future.
Nice, very nice. Your work emphasizes emotional intelligence and confidence building in education. In a business coaching context, how important are those factors during the first interaction with a new client? And how can coaches or training foster trust and confidence from the start?
Well, it's all about emotional learning. Sometimes, as educators, we forget that that's an important part. As a student starts to learn emotionally, we need to understand how do we really address those emotional needs in our child? How do we personalize it? As a teacher, we may have 20, 30 students in the classroom, And a lot of times we don't have time to address every emotional learning from each child. And so we really need to hone into that. And what our AI technology does, it looks at from the very beginning, the parent and the child working together, understanding their emotional intelligence, understanding the way that they learn, understanding that personalized learning, that it comes from experience. It comes from understanding emotional intelligence, understanding the way that they learn, and really personalize it in a way that no other company can do, in a way that no other educator can do, because it brings everything together. And so we're basically helping teachers to be successful in the classroom because what we provide is that technology.
You are you are also preparing to speak at Japan's largest tech conference, and you have been working with a business coach who encouraged you to step into more public speaking. What's the message you are most excited to share with that audience?
The message is what I said before. Well, there's two messages. The
Okay.
message, what I said before, is that education needs to catch up to technology and go beyond. Because, like I said, the technology is not going to determine the future. It's those individuals that learn how to use technology wisely. So, as educators, we need to prepare our students. Unfortunately, in university life, things move slowly. We no longer need to do that. We now need to get entrepreneurs who have technology background, who have that technology to combine and collaborate with universities and really prepare our students. A lot of times, I got to share with you, I was sitting down with a vice president of a university, and we were talking about STEAM education and how we're going to put together this program. And it was, I believe, 2023, 2024. And I said, okay, let me put the curriculum together. Let's get started. So, are we talking about next semester? He says, no, we're actually looking at 2028. Unfortunately, that's university life. We need to put that away, and we need to look at how do we meet the needs of innovation? How do we meet the needs of technology and move it forward? The second thing that I want to share with them is, as an entrepreneur, I remember 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm on the side of the road with my hands on the steering wheel because I was basically had an extra job. I was a Uber driver, and I was sitting there 2 o'clock in the morning after spending the whole day knocking on doors of school districts, of principals, of school leaders, and asking them and sharing my program with them, getting them to buy into and understand the program. The question that they always ask is, so who's using it? And a lot of times our innovation is never really realized until the evidence has been reached. So as an entrepreneur, we're thinking ahead, but a lot of times our clients or our customers are not there yet. And so as an entrepreneur, we need to not doubt ourselves. We need to believe that what we're doing is going to change the way students learn, change the way education is delivered. And at the second way is basically understanding that struggles are not obstacles. Struggles are just ways that we need to realize we're on the right path. We're on the journey to having success in our entrepreneur spirit.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's really amazing messages that you are giving to our audience, our listeners, that how to improve, how to get ahead, innovation, all that. I really appreciate your insights. I appreciate your openness and examples and everything that you have provided today. I don't know if you want to provide any last message to our audience before we close.
Well, as an entrepreneur, we're always looking at ways to make it happen. I don't have a rich father that gave me finances to be able to make this project work. So as an educator, as an entrepreneur, we need to find ways to make it happen. I'm working with a business coach, and he's always saying, "Okay, go out there, let people know what you're doing, and be that positive voice out there for what you're doing, and eventually it's going to happen." But always remember that you are always ahead of the game. And until your customers see the evidence, you're going to constantly be going forward and don't have self doubt, but understand you're headed in the right direction. As parents, we believe that we want the best for our children. I have my next book that I'm writing is called Tenacity, Never Giving Up, teaching our children the importance of never giving up and having tenacity. As a parent, as an educator, as an entrepreneur, I believe that is my talent of having tenacity, never giving up until we get to where we need to be, and how we're going to change the future of education and really develop innovators, really develop students that are going to make the difference in the future. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my insights and my background, and I look forward to many more positive projects for it going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.